Well, Mark Carney was in Washington today for a much-anticipated second meeting with Donald Trump, and the Quebec government is getting ready to present its own constitution. Here to weigh in on both is political analyst Raphael Melancon. So, Raphael, let's start with the U.S. Meeting. President Donald Trump seems to think Mark Carney will be happy, and the mood certainly seemed jovial, but no details yet.
Well, not much came out of that meeting, Caroline, but at the same time, it was to be expected because the team surrounding Mark Carney has spent the past few hours and days trying to downplay the importance of that second meeting in Washington, D.C. between Mark Carney and President Donald Trump. So they were here clearly trying to manage expectations, saying probably no big deal will come out of that meeting, but Mark Carney was going to Washington, D.C. mainly to iron out some of the details that needed to be discussed face-to-face with his American counterpart here. So interesting, though, to see the dynamics between the two men. You see the photos right now of that meeting on your screen. The tone between the two men seemed very respectful, very positive. They seem to have a good relationship, and they joked a little bit about the Canada becoming 51st state, but it was all, as you mentioned, very jovial, and it seemed positive. So, of course, as we know, when Donald Trump likes you, he's usually more keen to make concessions. Who knows, eventually, in an eventual deal with Mark Carney. So let's cross fingers here, but it looks like, as he mentioned, Mark Carney can leave Washington, D.C. having a positive idea of what's coming up.
Yeah, and he said something about Mark Carney being a good guy, but he's a good guy too, so he's not going to give an inch where he doesn't need to, typical Donald Trump.
And Carney also threw lots of flowers, Caroline. Carney threw flowers to President Trump as well, and it's something, as we know, that Donald Trump as a person loves all the time, so this is also good points, good diplomacy from Mark Carney.
Yeah, good strategy. Speaking of strategy, let's talk about Simon Jolin Barrette getting ready to table Quebec's constitution. Already some groups are not happy with it, though. What do we know about this so far?
We don't have much details about the contents of the bill because it will be tabled at the National Assembly in the next few days. But so far, what we know, what Minister Jolin Barrette has said publicly is that this bill intends to present a constitution that would be included in the Constitution of Canada. This is something provinces can do. This is something, for instance, that British Columbia has done in 1996, adopting its own constitution. So Quebec would not be the first province to do something like that. And what Jolin Barrette wants to include in there are elements that would better protect Quebec's identity and values, of course, but also ensure and reinforce the province's autonomy and the autonomy of its democratic institutions. So, of course, as Jolin Barrette said, it's the law of all laws here. So it's a very important piece of legislation. It's something that we have been talking about for decades in Quebec to have eventually to adopt in the province. All parties in the past, whether René Lévesque or Robert Bourassa, have considered the question, and now the Legault government seems geared up to finally make it become a reality here in the province.
All right, well, we'll have to see what the contents of it are then. Thanks so much for joining us today, Raphael.
Always a pleasure, Caroline. See you next time.